Ladies and gents, internet, my name is Peridiam, and I heard you loud and clear. It's certainly been a minute since we last saw Yule and his no-scope through the bottom of a rowboat, so let's keep the ball rolling with 5 clever strategies, unique tactics, and of course, hacks, however you define that word, feel free to let me know, that have been implemented in Survivor challenges to great success. Years ago, I put together a 4-part video series covering numerous ingenious moves made by Survivor winners, and to this day, one of my biggest regrets on my channel after hundreds of videos was the omission of this first hack. We're talking about a challenge hack from an early winner of this series. We're talking about Vecepia Towery from Season 4 Survivor Marquesas. Now this is old school Survivor, which means we're getting something unique and out of left field, and in this case, it's the Final 4 immunity challenge known as Fallen Comrades, where the remaining players meet with Jeff at Tribal Council and compete in a trivia competition where the questions are all about the rest of the cast. What's their significant other's name? How many siblings do they have? Who is the 1997 National Watermelon Seed Spitting Champion?
Who was the 1997 National Watermelon Seed Spitting Champion?
You know, basic facts about who they are as a person. Vecepia goes on to get every question right, except for a bonus point in the first question, and is the only player to do so as well, and her simple trick was ingenious, and I gotta believe it's why we've probably never seen this competition held again, except for like a slight variation 25 seasons later. The hack that Vecepia uses is that every player on a season of Survivor gets to bring a luxury item with them on the show. Sometimes people bring their state flag or a banner. One guy brought a magic 8-ball, but Vecepia brought a poetry journal, and throughout this season, Vecepia used this little journal to take notes on the rest of the cast in the event any of this information might become useful down the line. And of course, it did. Knowing Fallen Comrades was a recurring challenge, it had happened in the first 3 seasons, and this was season 4, V studied her cast and aced every personal question asked in this trivia challenge when her neck was on the line, and had she not won, she would have been voted out.
I'm not gonna sit there and try to compare notes with those guys. This immunity is too important for me. I know where Patricia's from, but that's why I said I think it starts with an L. I know exactly where she's from.
One of the goals that I had while I was here was to develop a relationship with everyone and know as much as I can about them.
I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna play the best immunity game that I can. If I don't win it, I know I'm out of here.
In which branch of the armed services did John train to be a nurse? Pascal, will go to you first. Kathy. Nalia. Army is not right. V, if you get this right, you have 10 and you win. Show me your answer. Air Force is correct. V wins immunity.
The next hack is one of the more well-known instances of a player going above and beyond to win a challenge, and all I gotta say for anyone to understand what I'm talking about is one word: Dolphin Boy. Actually, that was 2 words. Regardless, this challenge in Season 16, Micronesia, involved the cast funneling coconuts through a 30-foot elongated cage, all while underwater. Yeah, it's Survivor, things get complicated. It was a tiring task of constantly diving down, pushing a coconut, ascending for air, and so on and so forth. Only 1 player per tribe could go at a time, and they could never go back to back, and because there were 4 divers per tribe, 1 player would need to go at least 3 times. Ozzy quickly realized this was a challenge, of course, all about speed underwater, and he is pretty much the undisputed GOAT of underwater challenges, so what does he do? Ozzy dives first, and instead of pushing 1 coconut the length of the cage, he pushes 4 coconuts at the same time. He then pushes 1 coconut to the surface, leaving the other 3 at the very end of the cage. One by one, the next 3 players on his team jump in, grab their coconut in 1 dive, and return to the platform. It's a quick process that at first seems to set Ozzy's tribe back. He took a little bit longer than the other tribe to get 4 down the cage at once, but once you realize that Ozzy's speed in the water was unparalleled, his tribe didn't have to worry about any of them being slow in the water because they barely had to go in the water in the first place. This was Ozzy's bread and butter, and his tribe easily won the challenge once they collected every coconut, all thanks to this little strategy, this little tiny tactical maneuver, and then James triumphantly spelled the word scramble correctly.
Ozzy's spending a lot of time underwater. He's still working at the end of the cage. Penner swims out to the front of the cage where Ozzy has pushed a coconut forward. Penner with the 9th coconut. 1 coconut left for the favorites.
Triumphant? Would that be a word? Yeah. If I come up with the damn puzzle, come on.
Mikey B up with the 9th coconut for the fans. Triumphant. Favorites win reward.
Actually, I lied to you guys. Just like in part 1, in which I included 6 examples instead of 5, we're gonna do that here too. My number 2.5 challenge hack is in episode 3 of season 25 Survivor Philippines, and it's no less a hack even though it's very similar to what I just talked about. We saw another fantastic challenge strategy play out that was quite like Ozzy's, and it was amusingly performed by a player who was on Ozzy's tribe during that coconut water challenge, Jonathan Penner. In this land-based challenge, one at a time, each tribe would send a player through an obstacle course to secure a bag of balls. Always gotta be balls. Can't have a challenge video without balls. At one point in the course, the players would need to dig up these bags of balls in a pit of mud. The bags were deep and difficult to find, and they could leave a player befuddled if they got unlucky. So Jonathan implemented a strategy like Ozzy. He went first for his tribe, and when he got to the pit, he spent extra time digging up all 4 bags and placing them in one location. While this initially set his tribe back in the first heat, every subsequent player on his team didn't have to waste time digging around, potentially covering the ground of their previous teammate, and could instead just grab the bag and move on. This tactic gave Jonathan's tribe a huge advantage by the end of the challenge, like what we saw with Ozzy in the water.
Penner still searching. Penner has a bag of balls. Penner is looking for all the bags for his team and pulling them up. Got them all, they're in the corner. New strategy by the red team. That could be a big difference in this challenge. Corner. That corner right in front of you. Penner's already grabbed the balls and put them up there. Easy for Carter. There. Denise quickly finds her bag. Malcolm out on the court, in the water, all he's got to do is pick up that last bag. And just like that, Malcolm has his 4th bag, he's through the ice. This could do it! There it is, Malcolm! Wins reward for the red team!
The 4th hack is another well-known but equally out of left field strategy that also breaks another challenge, and to this day, we have yet to see it return. And for you superfans out there, you probably know what I'm talking about. I am talking about the Survivor Auction, a reward challenge that used to be a staple on the show, but ever since season 30, the last time we saw it, Survivor Worlds Apart, it was retired, all thanks to this one moment. Superfans, they always think they know it all. And in some cases they do, because in episode 9, the Merged Tribe heads to the auction and a few of the players really want and expect an advantage to pop up. Several players hold their money. That is, until Jeff whips out letters written by their loved ones. He puts the letters up for auction. Whoever the highest bidder is wins a reward that should fill their heart. Just like the advantage, several of the players really want this. They want that loved one's letter, and that's kind of the point of this challenge. It's a social-based competition that intends to breed conflict. That's the selling point for the producers, and that's why they include it. But what if there was a strategy that could eliminate that conflict in one swift blow? Shireen immediately pipes up and tells everyone the strategy. One person should bid the lowest amount, $20, and based on past trends of previous auctions in previous seasons, Jeff will then let anyone else buy their letter for the same amount. She encourages the players to not be greedy, to trust her instinct. Everyone can win in the end and beat the producers at their own game. And that's exactly what happens. Sierra bids for $20, wins her letter, and then like clockwork, Jeff smirks, says his lines, and everyone else buys their letter for the same low price. What a steal. Well, almost.
You guys, in the past, whatever the highest bid ended up being, Jeff let everybody else buy it for that high bid. 20.
Sierra, gonna bid for 20? Anybody else who wants to buy their loved one letters from home for $20 can do so.
Everyone's in for 20?
Let's go.
It's fair. Let's
Go
go.
get it, you guys. Yeah.
Mike, did you get...
He didn't do it.
Wow.
Mike didn't do it?
He didn't do it. I knew you
All
weren't
right.
going to do it.
Well, then I'll give mine back. That's bull. I'll give it back.
This next fifth hack is pretty cool and just leaves me impressed with the execution. In episode 4 of season 14, Survivor Fiji, a tribal challenge occurs where each tribe must stand on a beam side by side over the water. One by one, the players all must sidle from one platform to the other, but the difficulty is that the player furthest from the target destination has to go first. The other players all must stay where they are. Players aren't allowed to touch the beam with their hands, nor can they touch more than one other player at a time. The tricky part of this challenge is rather evident. The beam is just not very wide. Players bump up against each other and knock each other off, and then have to reform and restart. A player could get far along and then mess up on the last person and must go all the way back. Balance is key, and that's where the successful strategy comes into play. After falling behind and several failed attempts, the Moto tribe concocts a strategy whereby every player on the beam crouches down and squats. Meanwhile, the player crossing simply leaps over each player using the squatting tribemate for support. By lowering their center of gravity, the tribe becomes a lot more stable and doesn't have to rely on holding each other or knocking one another off when the passing player gets to them. This strategy proves to be incredibly effective, as Moto comes from behind where they were losing initially 0-2 to win the challenge 7-2. The other tribe couldn't believe it.
Let's try to squat. Dreams has a new idea. Your hands cannot touch the beam.
Use your hands and put your weight on him, but make sure it's balanced.
Lisi, one member left to get over. Lisi across from Moto. Moto's strategy is starting to work. Alex over Boo. Moto is tied at 2-2. Dreams is across. It is 5-2. Boo gives a wave to the crowd. Moto wins reward.
Finally, I just gotta make mention of this hilarious strategy, this last hack, or whatever you want to call it, that takes place in episode 5 of Survivor Season 8 All-Stars. The 3 tribes are given large piles of tied up bamboo and tasked with building a raft capable of carrying each of their 4 members in a relay race to see who is the fastest. One tribe attempts to build some kind of cataract. Another builds like a pontoon. I don't know. They get creative and want to show the world they are survivalists. They deserve to be on the first ever All-Stars season. Meanwhile, the 3rd tribe, the green tribe, Mogo Mogo, employs a strategy that, well, let's just say if you've ever been in a group project, decided doing the bare minimum was good enough, and just kinda hope for the best, you may have been onto something. Mogo Mogo looks at their stacks of bamboo, says, you know what? All these things already float as is. I reckon we can just tie them together, creating a massive pile of bamboo, and just float on that. Work smarter, not harder. The genius here is that this created a makeshift canoe, and in a challenge all about speed, this raft was proving itself to be quite speedy. Because it wasn't very wide, it didn't face as much resistance, and so when Mogo Mogo took it to the course, they won the challenge quite handily. And yes, of course, Jeff had to call them out for how ugly it was. What a bunch of hacks.
The challenge was to construct a raft that was worthy of the sea. So that meant this raft not only had to carry Lex and Kathy and I and a normal human being, but it's got to carry 260 pounds of hatch.
These bundles, as they are, will never sink.
Don't think too hard. Simple is always better.
Ultimately, it came down to laziness and pure exhaustion that designed that raft.
Mogo Mogo out to a slight lead. Savoga's raft looks nice, but it's slow. Mogo Mogo pulling away with the worst looking raft of the 3. Mogo Mogo still with the big lead. Mogo Mogo increases their lead. Mogo by far with the best looking raft and the least effective. Mogo Mogo celebrating for the even finish. Mogo Mogo wins reward.
So that's 5, technically 6, more times Survivor players hack challenges to get ahead. I love these little moments, if only because they make me appreciate the challenges a lot more. They encourage me to keep an eye out for keen players who take advantage of the little things. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I definitely want to make more of these unique strategy videos in the future, so if these are vids that you guys do want to see, let me know. A huge thank you, of course, to my patrons on the screen for hacking your way into my heart. And don't forget, on your way out, Survivor isn't just about the social game. And I will see you in the next one once I just find a way to hack these boobs.
She's got these big old boobs I can't get past. Ooh. Make a move.
The women making no progress.
Hold me, like hold me.
Kat may not be the best person to have put on the end. And with that, Christina's in the water.
I don't think you have to
Kat
go back.
just jumps back in. Not sure why. Two hands. Kat reached out and grabbed it. Once again, Kat jumped in for no reason.
It's definitely the boobs are hard.